Hello and welcome back for another historic video. Today we're going to be playing this eggs combo deck. The premise of the deck is to reduce the cost of all of your spells and then using draw and scry effects play out your entire deck in one turn, eventually using Aetherflux Reservoir to win the game. In order to reduce the cost of our spells, we have 4 copies of Semblance Anvil, which lets us imprint an artifact, and it'll reduce the casting costs of artifacts by 2. If we get 2 of these into play, we're able to cast all of our cards for free. Similarly, we have Cloud Key, also a 3 mana artifact. However, this one only reduces the casting cost by 1. As a redundant copy of this effect, we have 4 copies of Sculpting Steel, which lets us copy an artifact that we already have on the battlefield. If we already have enough cost reducers, we can always copy one of our other artifacts as well. And then we have 4 copies of Mystic Forge. This 4 mana artifact lets us look at the top of our library and cast artifact spells and color spells from the top, which is how we churn through our deck. And then for the additional cost of 1 life, we can tap this and exile the top card of our library. So if we fizzle, we're able to remove the land card and try to continue digging. And then once we're dumping all of our artifacts into play, we'll be looking for our Aetherflux Reservoir, which states that whenever we cast a spell, we gain 1 life for each spell we've cast previously this turn. And then once we reach 50 life, we can have the artifact deal 50 damage to our target opponent. Notably, this can be triggered any number of times in a turn. So if for some reason our opponent was able to get up over 50, we can just continue casting cards until we reach 100 life and hit them twice, and so forth. Then the cards that we're using to cycle through our deck: 4 copies of Chromatic Sphere. Let's just sacrifice it, draw a card, and add a mana of any color. So once its cost is reduced, this effect is essentially free. Similarly with Chromatic Star. This one is slightly better because the star reads that whenever it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, we get to draw a card, whereas the sphere actually has to be sacrificed. So if for some reason our opponent uses a spell to destroy the star, we still get to draw. Then we have 4 copies of Golden Egg, which lets us draw a card when it comes into the battlefield. It can also be sacrificed to add a mana of any color, or to gain 3 life. Sleeper Dart, also 2 mana, and when it enters we get to draw a card. Then we can sacrifice the artifact and have target creature not untapped during its controller's next untap step. And lastly, we have 4 copies of Mindstone. It lets us add a generic mana, or we can sacrifice it to draw a card. All of these help us manipulate the top of our deck, which usually allows us to combo in a single turn. The last supporting card we have here is Scrap Trawler, a 3 mana 3/2 that states whenever this creature or another artifact is put into the graveyard, we can return a target artifact to our hand, which has lesser mana value than the artifact that was put in the graveyard. So when we sacrifice our 2 mana artifacts, we're able to return the stars and spheres back to our hand for additional value. Since we're playing a mud deck, we're able to play Jegantha for free, and the main reason we're doing this is to try and confuse our opponents a bit. Jegantha really only sees play in the Wizards deck, and so if our opponent thinks they're going to need a lot of creature removal to keep up with us, they might keep some hands that are not optimal against what we're trying to do here. For the mana base, we have a single mountain so that we can cast the Jegantha, or if our opponent uses something like a Boseiju on one of our lands, we do have something we can tutor up. 2 Crypt of the Eternals. When it enters, we gain 1 life. This can additionally produce red mana. 2 Buried Alives lets us return an artifact card from our graveyard to our hand if our opponent is able to destroy one of our key pieces or makes us discard it. Crystal Grotto lets us scry, manipulating the top of our deck. Invention's Fair, some passive life gain each turn, and additionally we can tutor up a missing artifact card. Radiant Fountain for life gain, and Zalfarin of the Void, again to let us scry and manipulate the top of our deck. This deck relies heavily on the Cloud Key and Semblance Anvil, and we're really going to be looking to have one of those in our opening hand. Although with the card selection and the cycling that we have of a lot of our 1 and 2 drops, it's not always critical. The one thing this deck really struggles with is if our opponent has artifact removal and they're able to destroy things like our Semblance Anvil early in the game while applying pressure, then without the cost reduction, we really do have trouble winning games. This deck can be a lot of fun when it pops off, and I'm hoping to demonstrate that today in the matches. Before we jump into the gameplay, I'd like to ask you to please like and subscribe the video. It really helps the channel. And without further ado, let's jump into the games. On the draw here, keep this. We have some ramp into the Mystic Forge and a handful of cyclers. We'll just start on the fountain for now, get the sphere down. Opponent green suns for 1. They're on a poison deck, so we could lose fairly quickly here. We'll cycle for black. The color doesn't really matter. And a Semblance Anvil is great. We'll play out the Mind Stone, pass the turn. Play out an Ivy, we take 1 poison. So first I'm going to see what's on top of our deck. Sculpting Steel. So here we'll play out the Anvil. Then we can imprint probably one of the Mystic Forge. I can play out a blocker. Play out the Dart. And then now we can pass the turn. Mockingbird will copy the Rot Priest. Now any spell they cast that targets their Rot Priests will deal 4 poison. This is a Hidden Strings. It is. So they're going to cipher underneath the Ivy here. Looks like they have another card to cast as well, based on the fact that they untap their own lands. Sinister Reflections. Four poison from the Reflections, and then when Ivy attacks in, there'll be another 4 poison. So it doesn't matter if we play out the Sculpting Steel or the Cloud Key, they're both going to get used anyway to reduce the cost. We'll play out the Mystic Forge. Might as well get the Reservoir down. Nothing to imprint here. Draw the Scrapper. Can sacrifice the eggs, generate a mana. This will return back our sphere from the graveyard. Draw a card. Use the Mystic Forge to clear the top. Draw another card. Another Reservoir, so that should win the game here. We'll just play out another spell. And then we'll dome our opponent. Good game. This hand is good. We'll keep. It has some cyclers, some cost reducers. So we just need to find the forge now. Opponent is on a affinity deck. Play out the star. So we're looking for another land, and then from there we're looking to find the Mystic Forge. Sculpting Steel is also a good pickup. So we'll cycle the star first. We find an eggs. There's our third land. Opponent shocks in a Hallowed Fountain. Bounces their relic. And then they play out a weapons manufacturing. Tool mod script can be useful against us. We'll try to be mindful and not put all of our eggs into one basket. So we'll start with the life gain. We can play out the Semblance Anvil. I think here we'll put the sphere under it. Can draw a card using the sleeper dart. Cycle the golden egg as well. And then we'll have to pass the turn from here. Notably, we are out of cyclers as well. So we have a bunch of cost reduction in the reservoir in our hand, but nothing to really do with it at the moment. Hopefully our opponent doesn't have the scavenger in hand, allowing them to sacrifice all these munition tokens. Haven't seen black mana yet, so it's unlikely that they have the Viper, but not impossible. And there's the Ravager. So now we only have a turn or two left. Might even die now. See how many 0 drops they have in their deck. So they draw 4. 8 damage face up right now, plus the additional artifacts that they can sacrifice. They draw a card with the relic, and then pass the turn. Eggs is not bad. We'll start on that. The void is better than nothing, but we bottomed out. Sleeper dart is just a cycle. We can try and play out the cloud key, see if our opponent wants to counter it. They do not. No point in playing out the steel here. Could play out the reservoir, try and gain some life before our opponent combos off next turn. And here I think we might actually copy the reservoir. Try and gain as much life as possible. And our opponent throws in the towel early. Good game. This hand is good. We'll keep. Unfortunately, we're on the draw again. Up against a green deck. Don't know if it's elves or devotion yet. Typically, you like to play out your life gain lands over your scry lands. Save the scries for when you're comboing. Occasionally, you'll play them out earlier in the game if you're really digging for a specific card. Or you have no other choice, like right here. So a second Anvil would allow us to reduce everything down to 0 next turn. And we are going to want to play out the Mind Stone to get up to 4 mana. Opponent draws here, so we're just going to be taking 3. Could very easily die next turn though, so we're going to have to try to combo right here. Cloud Key is not needed. We'll play out an Anvil and print the key in our hand. Then before playing out the second Anvil, I think we are going to cycle our Dart. So it does look like we can continue comboing here. We'll add black. Sculpting Steel is a good top deck. We can play out the Anvil and print the Steel. And get the Mystic Forge down. And now we just have to not fizzle. Draw a card with the egg. Unfortunately, it looks like we've hit a patch of lands here. And the other Anvil's not going to do it. We don't have any mana to draw with. I think we do need to tap down our opponent's creatures here. Usually like to save things like the Sleeper Dart for when you have a Trawler in play, but dire times call for dire measures. So we're definitely dead next turn. We'll try to combo again. Aetherflux Reservoir off the top is fantastic, and the Trawler here most likely wins the game. So it's going to be tough to lose from here. We'll just copy the Reservoir. Here we can cycle off our star. Play the eggs. Play out another Trawler. Play out a Sphere. And that's plenty to win the game. Good game. We'll give this one a try. Start on the fountain here. Up against the Wizards deck. So we'll scry first, see what we're drawing into. Can't send away Mystic Forge. Storm Chaser's talent, so maybe a bit more of a prowess build. I imagine it's the same core though. So let's see, if we start with Semblance Anvil, We'll imprint the golden egg. Then we can scry here. Golden egg off the top is fine. Don't really need it though. We'll take it. We can cast it for free anyway, so putting it on the bottom and cycling it are essentially the same thing. Then here we have essentially fizzled out. I don't think we... Well, so they can do so much damage in one turn. We'll keep going. And our opponent just concedes here. We would have needed to find another Mind Stone in order to really combo off, as our 4-drops are still not free to cast. Good game. This hand is good. We have everything we need to combo off. We just need time. No play from our opponent. Could be Affinity. And there's the Emissary. Tormod's Crypt will interfere with the Trawler. And our opponent has a very aggressive opening hand here. Seven power into play on turn 2. They were also on the play. Going to play out the Mind Stone here. Don't want the Sphere. Digging for another cost reducer. Down to 13. Our opponent has an Emery. Mill over some good cards there. So let's see where things take us. Really trying to dodge a counter spell here. We can't play around it, so we'll just jam. That works. And I think based on the Tormod's Crypt, we'll actually imprint the Trawler. Can play out the Sleeper Dart, draw a card. And we might as well lock down one of our opponent's creatures here, try and save some life. Opponent plays the Emissary and the Ornithopter. Don't expect this deck to have any way to give haste. It's not impossible. Right, we go down to 10, and then we draw a Sleeper Dart. So here we want to keep Mind Stone up in case we want to sacrifice it. So we'll play out the Mystic Forge first. That works. Unfortunately, I don't think we can afford to mill over our Trawler here. So we'll play it out. There's our Sculpting Steel, so that will be our final cost reducer. Can we afford to play it out right now? I think we'll scry first. Mind Stone is great. Now we're comboing. We'll drop the Reservoir. cycle the top of our library. Semblance Anvil. We can play this out and print our sculpting steel. Now all of our cards are going to be free. Feel pretty confident from this position as well. And if our opponent times out, not wanting to have to click through priority, then they won't be able to respond with the Tormod script later. We have a chromatic star on top. We're gaining 8 at a time. I think we can just copy the reservoir here. Opponent gets impatient. So we'll play out another Mystic Forge. And there should be enough life. Good game. This hand is good. We'll keep. Lead on the fountain. And then we'll play out the star. Verge from our opponent. They could have counters in their deck. Could also have artifact removal. So we'll keep cycling through our spheres and stars here. And then pass the turn back. Play out the grotto. Don't mind a Radiant Fountain. Also don't think it's the best. And then here, since our opponent is holding up counter spells, we're actually going to start on the Cloud Key, expecting it to get countered. And it does. So this could be a very tough matchup for us. If our opponent is playing cards like Miscalculation, then they're likely to have a full suite of counters in their deck. They hold up blue.
Is there a deeper meaning to this passage?
So we could either try and play out a Forge here. I think we'll do that. Again, the Anvil is so critical to our strategy. And we have double Forge in hand. So if they have a counter spell, the Forge is a must counter. They just let that go. So maybe they have a bounce spell or a removal. Otherwise, I think that was probably a mistake. Tamiyo generates a clue. And we will take the land here. Well, they went down to 1 land. Based on that, maybe we will get rid of the Radiant Fountain. Try and find something to imprint to the Anvil.
Tell me everything you know about this plane. I am not defenseless.
They sacrifice the Vista, shuffle right away. I'd rather see blue mana here, I think, than white. And they get the planes. Didn't seem like they had a response there. So we'll play out the Anvil. I think we imprint the Forge. Then we can draw this Void, which will also let us scry. We do want this. We don't have anything to imprint to it. Unfortunate. Opponent up to 5 mana here. Something like a Teferi bouncing the Anvil would be pretty rough. Opponent is deep in the tank here. So they're just being a bit salty, it looks like.
I never forget an exceptional story.
We'll take our draw step. I think we'll cycle. Trawler, something that we might want to imprint the Anvil. Draw a second trawler and another Anvil. So if our opponent counters this, then we have another one in hand. There is the counter spell. So we'll try the one that we have in hand. They Brain Surge, so now they're tapped out. They need a Force of Negation. Looks like they didn't find it, and they concede. Good game. This hand is fine. We'll keep. Black deck. I hope it's a creature removal heavy version. Alright, cycling is free here, so we'll do that first. See what we draw into before scrying. It's actually a land, so I think we hold on to our scry, and we can play out the Sleeper Dart. Notably, they could still have things like Skyclave Apparition to deal with our artifacts. Go blank. We'll get rid of the trawler. Probably an egg. They're the most replaceable. Now that our opponent is tapped out, I think we can go for our Anvil. Then we'll put a key under it. The Mystic Forge is more valuable than the cost reduction from the second key, as most of our spells only cost 1 or 2 to cast. And there's a Sheoldred, so that's going to kill us. We draw the second Anvil. We can play that out. Put the key under it. Let's just play the Forge for free. Anvil with nothing to imprint. And clear the top. Our only chance here is to find the Reservoir fairly early, and then we can gain more life than Sheoldred's dealing to us. Copy the Forge, and there is the Reservoir, so we might stand a chance now. We can scry, get rid of this land. Trawler's a good pickup. Steal on the Reservoir. Anvil with nothing to imprint, and that should be enough. Good game. This hand just isn't good enough. I'm taking mulligan. Not much better here. Don't really want to go down to 5. Play out our sphere. Thoughtseize doesn't really have a good target. Mind Stone's probably the best. They agree. So we'll cycle off our sphere. Play out our void. Really looking for another land here. And we find it. So trying to dodge another discard spell. We play out the key. Name artifact. No play from our opponent. We'd like to see that. So we'll play out another key. Artifact again. Mind Stone. Don't mind. So play out the Forge. Mind Stone is free. And our opponent just concedes. They don't have any way to interact with artifacts most likely. And once they're no longer able to interact with their hand, they're going to be in trouble. Okay, so there you have the deck. As you could see from the gameplay, it's really consistent in putting together the combo pieces, mainly because pretty much every card in the deck cycles or digs deeper, including most of the lands. Surprisingly, we didn't drop a game there. Usually the deck is fairly fragile to things like discard and counter spells, but we were able to overcome both of those decks in the matches. The discard deck thought seized us a turn too early before we drew into our cloud key, and then a second one off the top enabled us to get our key pieces down before they were able to disrupt us. And similar against the counterspell deck, they let the Mystic Forge resolve, and from there we were able to generate too much value off the top of our deck. Against fair matchups, we didn't have any problems. Once you start comboing with the deck, it's not deterministic. However, at a certain point you reach a critical mass where it pretty much is, and it's really not too bad to click through the combo. And a lot of times people will just concede once they see you've put together the Mystic Forge combo along with some reducers. This is a deck I've had in my collection for quite some time, and it continues to be playable even in the current historic meta, so you don't necessarily feel bad about spending some wild cards to build it. As always, I'd like to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more content.